here it is, everybody. The moment everybody has been waiting for. The whole reason we've been ripping this EVO 9 apart in the first place. And there it is. This is the clutch that was in the car. And let's just first take a look at this pressure plate right here. And it's just, look at how tore up that thing is. Just totally gone at this point. All that, these grooves and everything, you guys can see them in there. It's basically just like melted metal in there. Those grooves are caused by the rivets in this friction plate right here, which this actually was, I just covered that up. I don't know if you guys can see that, hold on. It's a competition clutch. Now looking at it closely here, guys, looking at it closely here, just look how far wore out this thing was. Now I do have a receipt from the previous owner that the little hole-in-the-wall dealership that he had bought the car from, they had a receipt from another place of, for the clutch they had put on, it was a good used clutch. So it must have been pretty used, or else the previous owner had just beat on this thing. Look at this, I'm not sure, I'm no clutch expert, but I'm thinking they are not supposed to do that. That thing just wore out. So don't worry, I'm going to show you how we got this thing all the way apart. I just want to show you this in the beginning of the video just to give you guys an idea of how wore out this clutch was. Look at how thin that is. Let's see if we can get it in there. Yeah. Check this out. Here we go, guys. XD 05803. This clutch right here is basically their stage 2 clutch, I guess. And I was able to pick this up off of a member of Northwest EVO's for $300. Now, this was new in the box. The person that had bought it, they had decided that since they had a 6-speed car, for whatever reason, they had to buy a different clutch. I'm not sure why, but I didn't really ask questions. It comes with basically everything you need. New throwout bearing, so we'll be throwing that in there. I didn't take that out yet. And a new one, new pressure plate. Made in Japan. Now, I was originally wanting to go with an ACT, but this came up and it was such a good deal that I couldn't pass it up. So that's why we ended up with this. That actually freed up money for other parts that I wasn't planning on getting right away, but we were able to order them and they should be coming in soon. So, but here, just for a quick comparison, look at the thickness difference. You don't even need a caliper or anything. You actually could probably measure with a ruler the difference in thickness on those two. And even though they're from different manufacturers, this one was probably very similar in thickness when it was new. So that's just how wore out this thing was, guys. I'm glad we got to it. And also, here's the upgrade. These springs in here will help with launches. And there's actually really good videos that XD has on their YouTube channel that explain like how clutches work and everything. So if you have a chance, go over there, check it out. They are a little dated. I will say they're probably from the early 2000s and maybe even the late 1990s, but they do a really good job with a visual explanation on how clutches work. So, like I said, don't worry, I have a bunch of footage on how to get this off, and actually I ran into some problems along the way, and hopefully those problems, you guys can learn from them, so if you ever have to do this job, you can plan ahead for what could happen. Okay, so there's a part of this video where you see me really struggle to get the throwout bearing disconnected from the clutch while it's still in the car. And you can't separate the transmission from the engine without getting the throwout bearing to disconnect from this. So you're just going to have to kind of imagine this all being hooked together in the car. This would be attached to the engine, and your throwout bearing is right here. And what the book tells you to do is there should be a rubber cover right here. You pull that out and you'll see basically just this area of the clutch and the pressure plate. And what you have to do is, while pushing the throwout bearing arm all the way towards the passenger side of the car, that causes the throwout bearing to compress like that. What they tell you to do is stick a screwdriver in there, and you press down, you twist the screwdriver, and it should release. And the main thing to focus here, and I didn't see anything anywhere on the internet, in any forums or any videos or anything, but there's a ring on this retainer, and when I was trying to get mine to disconnect, I didn't have the screwdriver all the way down, and it wouldn't allow the throwout bearing to release. So what you have to do is you really have to make sure that you're pushing that screwdriver all the way in there, and then you just simply twist and it comes out. Now obviously this is a brand new one, so there's no oil or anything in there. It comes out really easily. Mine was pretty oiled up. I'm sure that played into it as well, but also I wasn't using the right technique. So once again, just want to make sure that it's pressed up all the way against the pressure plate. Put your screwdriver in there, push it all the way past that little ridge, and then you simply just twist. It comes right out. Alright guys, so we're ready to take this transmission off. I had to take the starter off, two 14mm bolts. Then you can see right above it, that bolt that's loose. That's a bolt that we had to take loose. These are all 14mm bolts to hold this on. There's two up here on top, one right there, and one right behind it. And there's that one right there that you can see, the really dirty one on the bottom, that's loose as well. The rest of these were taken out. I believe that one that you can see where I'm shining the light there, all the way on the inside, that one we took out by accident when we were trying to take the transfer case apart, so that one was already out of there. And now we're just trying to separate the case, but I believe we may be getting hung up on the pilot bearing, which I haven't been able to figure out how to release yet. So just stick with me here and I'll show you guys taking it off as soon as I figure out the pilot bearing issue. So here we are. Here is our throwout bearing, and apparently what the website is telling me, the website I'm using to take this out, is you're supposed to push this way and put our screwdriver in there and twist it 90 degrees to release it. So I'm gonna keep working on it. I don't know if I'll be able to get it on camera, but I'll try my best. It's hard to get the light, hold the camera, do everything at once, so I might just show you guys the end result. Alright, so now I'm positive I finally got it. It took me over 2 hours of messing around. What I finally had to do was I had to put a breaker bar on the crank there and just rotate it a little bit, and then I tried it again and it popped right out. So if you guys get hung up on this, just try rotating the crank maybe like a quarter turn and give it another shot, and it should hopefully pop off for you. I'm gonna pull those bolts back out, and hopefully now we're finally gonna get this transmission off this block. Here we have it, guys. I did do it off camera. I just had to grab onto it and just rip, well, not rip, like, you know, kind of shake it off. So as you can see here, super dirty, and I count a lot of that is from there was a plate missing, a cover plate that I'm sure all the water and everything was just blowing up inside and just making things horrible. But looks like everything's intact. I think this is a stock clutch. We won't know for sure until we pull it off, but we'll do that in another video. But I'm just glad to have everything apart. Now I can quickly take this off. And I'm probably gonna put the engine, I got an engine stand. So taking this clutch off, it's pretty straightforward, I believe. I think we just gotta take these bolts out, and that'll give me plenty of exposure to the flywheel, which I gotta take off and take to the shop. I'm sure it's trashed. So I got stuck here, and I don't know where I left off on the last video, so I'm just gonna re-explain what happened here. Basically, I tried to take some of these flywheel bolts out with just the breaker bar and no heat. However, the problem is they kind of started stripping off the head because I couldn't hold the socket up tight against the bolt. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to put a little bit of heat on it with this, where is it at? Oh, right here. We got this set of oxygen and acetylene fuel tanks with a rosebud, so we should be able to get that nice and hot. And then my neighbor, who was kind enough to let me borrow this Earthquake XT, it's like a Harbor Freight gun, like a impact gun, and it's pretty good. It's supposed to be pretty good. They compare it to Snap-on, so we'll see what happens. I'll take you guys along for the ride, so let's try to get this going. So I lied. Looks like we gotta use the propane, which I'm not happy about because it doesn't get nearly as hot as the oxygen and acetylene torch, but I'm out of acetylene. Kind of bad on my part. I should have checked it before I went to do this job, but it is what it is. We'll give it a shot with just the propane torch and the Earthquake impact gun and see what happens. But we may be drilling these, I don't know. I hope not, but we'll see what happens. Woo! They're definitely Loctited in there, guys. That sucks. Well, I got all the other ones out, at least. In order to make sure I hit center, I just center punch this with a center punch. So now I'm just gonna step drill it up. Start with a small drill and just kind of take my time and hit it with some oil once in a while to try to keep the drill bit cool. Hopefully we don't break the drill bit. Since it's steel, you want to kind of just keep a slow speed, heavy feed. The goal is to get past the head of the bolt. You shouldn't need to go any deeper than that from here on out. Watch this, guys. Take a chisel and a hammer. And there you go. That bolts off of there. and you haven't damaged the surface of the flywheel at all. So just a little something that you can do. And we should be able to take a pair of vice grips and get it on here. If not, we'll drill it and just try to extract it at that point. Okay, so I moved you guys around so you could get a little bit better view. So now that we have the flywheel off, all I did was take this cover off right here. Mine, of course, was missing all the bolts, but this one that goes right here, who knows what happened. But main thing is you want to have a set of vice grips that have really good teeth on them, so they grab and they bite very well. And for this, because this is such a sensitive area with the crankshaft here, I would say if you don't have a pair of Irwin or good name brand vice grips just for this task, go spend the 20 bucks and get a good set of vice grips. So now I got the vice grips on there. All we got to do, simply just unscrew the bolt. And it's not going to be happy about coming out of there, but that's all right. Well, it looks like the threads are still intact, so that's a good sign. There you go, guys. And that's what you do when you get a stuck bolt on your flywheel. Look here, guys. Got pretty lucky. What we have is an ACT Street Light flywheel, and it definitely looks different from the one that comes on the card. So I will be taking this. I called the machine shop already, so we'll be taking it and getting it resurfaced. It did get hot, like right there, but I don't think it's terribly bad. I called ACT and they told me that as long as it doesn't turn white on the backside where it's coated, and as long as you don't remove more than 30 thousandths of an inch of material when you have a cut, these flywheels are able to be cut. Because I was told on the Northwest EVO's page that these flywheels had to be replaced, but I suspect that is somebody who is trying to take advantage of people and sell them products. So whenever you guys have a situation like this, when you're not sure, don't always trust just random people you've never met before. Don't be afraid to call the companies, especially big companies like ACT, Force Performance, and companies like Precision Turbo, Jack's Transmissions. Call those guys up and ask them the questions about their products. They are the subject matter experts at the end of the day. They know what their products can handle, how to repair them, what fluids they take, whatever. Don't be so willing to just trust some random guy on a Facebook page or a forum somewhere. Always do your own research. All right, guys, so the first step to getting this throwout bearing changed is we got to drive out this, it looks like a freeze plug, basically. I think it's just a brass plug that goes in there. What I found fit the best in there was a 7/16 socket. It kind of fits perfectly on top of the plug, so what I'm going to do is just drive it out. There you go. All right, so now we're in uncharted territory. We're going to take this 10mm bolt out, and we're going to try to press this rod that this arm is on up through the top. So we'll see what happens. Oh, there it goes. All right, so we decided we're going to try to take the tension off of these springs right now. So all I did was take a screwdriver and twist. Hopefully that makes it easier to get this out, which it should. And then we'll put the springs back on when we put it back together, and it's coming out easier already. Boom. So let's degrease that and re-grease it up with new grease. Then you gotta pay attention, keep these felt washers. They are important. And well, this one's broken, so to do our best with that one because I don't have a replacement. There's your arm, and there's your throwout bearing, which is all right. So we cleaned up this plate right here and applied grease. We applied grease into these holes, and we cleaned up this rod, put grease on that. The book actually tells you to put grease inside of where these bushings are at, and to put a little bit of grease on the ends that actually contact the throwout bearing, and then they tell you to pack grease into where the slave cylinder pushes on that. So we'll go ahead and we'll put this back in like that, and guess. Oh. Let's get it like this. Like, hope this is correct. Yep, there it is. You want to make sure that you put the right spring on the right spot. So like this tab right here rides on this tab, so that'll be our first spring that we install. And we'll push this all through. I'm sure this is going to be a huge pain to get lined up. Let's take 3. We had the shift, or the this fork in backwards the first time. That was me. And then when I didn't put it in the correct way, I had the springs in the wrong place. So we got it almost together and then realized that the springs wouldn't work. So Matt the mechanic's going to try to give me a hand here, because so once you get the rod in place, just get your screw started, and all you have to do is simply push those back in with your fingers, the springs, and then we'll torque that down. All right, so this bolt is 86 inch-pounds, which I think sounds like it's really, really tight. So, well, guess not. So if you want to get technical, that little brass cap that you take out, the book does give you a spec of 0.08 inches where it's supposed to sit underneath. I mean, obviously, I'm not that critical of it, but I just thought it was interesting that they actually gave you that spec. So just take your punch and kind of drive that back in place, and that's it. I think that'll go. All right, so this is the instructions from the exited clutch. They just want you to put some grease on the splines of this. So I'm gonna put that on while it's off, and then that'll be done. All right, so we're getting ready to put our flywheel on. I got brand new bolts, which is that part number right there. And this had the red Loctite in it. So what we did, we got an M12 by 1.25 tap from the hardware store and just ran it through to clean up the threads. And then I took some degreaser and got all the residue out. And then we finally just got some, just blew all the debris out of there. So we will be red Loctiting these back in and torquing them down. So we'll put our ACT flywheel on. Don't forget to put your cover plate on, guys, and there's these 2 bolts. Put them in first, because once the flywheel is on top, you won't be able to install them very easily. They get torqued down to 98 inch-pounds. So we got our bolts degreased, got our red locker. Hopefully you guys can see that. And you're gonna need somebody to hold the other side of the engine while you torque these down. So, you know what? I gotta put some on this first. This first one, yeah, this stuff is definitely thicker than the blue. So 98 foot-pounds on these. You ready? Mm-hmm. All right, so we're getting ready to install our clutch disc and friction plate. And if you see on here on this XD clutch, they have TM side. I'm gonna go with this transmission side. Matt's mechanic seems to think that's the motor side. Just kidding, I'll cut that out. But this is actually transmission side. So that being said, I guess we'll need our 03 Ford. This is actually what came in the kit too. This is the special tool. I forget what it's called.
Alignment tool.
I'm sure somebody will tell me in the comments. Alignment tool, we'll say. And put our friction disc inside of here like this.
Did you clean that?
With solvent? Clean what? The outside of this? Was I supposed to clean it?
This one.
No. Was I supposed to? Oh.
Here,
Hold on, we're gonna clean this. So now we're gonna align everything up. We have our little alignment tool in there, the 03 Ford one, I guess. And this is my first time ever doing this, so bear with me. Got pressure plate bolts in there. About to run them down, and then I gotta look up the torque value anyway. So let's run them down real quick, and I'll do fast forward on this. We got our bolts in, our retaining bolts. So these are 13 foot-pounds or 146 inch-pounds.